Hello, Lance, and welcome everyone here who's listening to this interview with the amazing Lance Shuttler, who is the founder of one of my favorite companies on the planet, EMF Harmonized. I am so happy to be with you today. Welcome.
Thank you, Debra. I'm really excited to be here and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I know that we both have a lot of energy and I know that this is going to be good.
It is going to be so good. And I am so excited that my community can learn more about just what EMFs are. Hint, they are electromagnetic frequencies, although sometimes electromagnetic fields,
Right.
and and why we just might want to protect ourselves from them. And this is really exciting to me because I'm usually the one getting interviewed, and today I'm the one who gets to ask the questions, and I love asking questions. And Lance, for many years, I have known that our world is being more and more bombarded by these frequencies. And I have done whatever I could to protect myself and my family from the ravages of these frequencies, which you're going to talk about later, especially the new kid on the block, 5G, because the science that isn't suppressed about these frequencies and the effect that they have on our bodies and our brains is actually quite startling. But I learned about your company from a friend who I trust implicitly on these matters. And then, of course, we talked, and I loved you even more because I found out you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan. Go Hawks. How about those
Go
Hawkeyes?
Hawks.
Go Hawks. So why don't we start out by you telling everyone a little bit about yourself and your background, and also what got you interested enough in EMFs to start a company?
Yeah. Okay. So I also went to the University of Iowa and graduated with a degree in health science. And, when I first got into school, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I was really focused more on like physical therapy or chiropractic. But it was always health related. And then when I got into school, I met some people who really opened my eyes up to lifestyle, health, wellness, and things like that, really more than what schooling was teaching me. Like, yes, I did learn things in school for sure, but as we're learning more and more and more, the schooling system, it's good and functional in some ways, but it's also very defunctional or dysfunctional in other ways. And, I really needed to look outside of the schooling system to learn a lot more about health and wellness and nutrition, especially. And so that just led me down many different paths and, doing research myself, reading articles, research articles, reading books by medical doctors, scientists, so forth, and just really trying to get into the information that I found to be really helpful for me. And then taking that information and sharing it with others. So I've worked as a nutritional health coach in the past since graduating and worked in the wellness and supplement industry in general. And also 10 years ago, I started learning about grounding and earthing, which is the concept of having the skin touching the earth and that we are then absorbing negative ions, which then physiologically impact us in beneficial ways. Yeah. So that concept really struck home for me. And, there's plenty of published research on earthing and grounding. So I know some people will say, oh, that's just woo woo, there's nothing to it. But it is 100% fact that earthing and grounding makes a definite positive physiological response within the body. And so, when I started looking at that and incorporating that into my life, I felt benefits, and I knew, I started telling others and others would do it and it helped them as well, just in various ways. I mean, I didn't really have anything I was specifically trying to address, but I just could feel a difference in my life and vitality overall. And then recently I came in contact with a scientist who he was one of the few co-founders of Texas Instruments. And so he's a mechanical engineer and he's been in this industry, for 30, 40 years now. He knows all about EMFs and has studied it inside and out. He actually has a couple patents on certain technologies for 2G and 3G technology that has been used in the past, and some of that is still used in 4G. And he had developed this technology that was very different from all the other EMF mitigating technologies. And so I really started looking into it, had some conversations with him, and then eventually partnered with him to then start my own company, EMF Harmonized, to bring this out in a way where I can get it out, where we can get it out to more people.
Okay, so excuse me. So for the people who don't even know what EMFs are, and there are people who don't,
Yeah,
why don't you start with the basics? And by the way, I learned something new about grounding because I even have a grounding mat.
same here.
I didn't realize that what grounding does is that the negative ions, which are like an abundance in waterfall and fresh soil, that when we have our skin to skin contact or we're in the energy of that, those negative ions, that it makes us happier and feel better and clear. And I didn't know that that's what my grounding mat did, that it emitted those negative ions so that it felt like I was having the same experience as out in nature.
Yeah, that's awesome. I sleep with one of those. I sleep with an earthing sheet, and I love it.
Yeah, and me too. My wonderful former husband gave it to me. I guess was last year or 1 year for my birthday, and I just love it. But I didn't know why I loved it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Uh,
Learn that. So but now why don't we give people just basic EMFs and 5G 101?
yeah. Okay, so EMFs, like you said earlier, electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic fields, it's really the same thing. And in layman's terms, there's a full range of EMFs. So there's actually beneficial EMFs, and then there's unbeneficial or harmful EMFs. So on the low end, which are actually more beneficial, you could look at that as like the pulse electromagnetic fields, PEMF. That's like a therapy that many different practitioners will use. And then also people have heard of red light therapy or infrared therapy or far infrared therapy. Those are actually electromagnetic frequencies that are beneficial for us. Our cells can take that and utilize that energy in wonderful ways. I actually do a red light therapy. Uh, I stand in a machine that it's full red light, and it really just supercharges your cells, and it's very beneficial for the mitochondria. It's great for skin health and collagen. I do it more just for the overall like neurogenic health of the brain, the body, and just raising literally the frequency of the cells. It literally gives your energy, or it gives your cells literal energy that it can use. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, now I learned another interesting fact about something I was doing and I didn't know why,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I had a chiropractor, and part of the treatment is he would put this kind of like V-shaped, or what do you call it? I guess it's inverted V-shaped thing. It was red light,
Mhm.
and he would put it over my body, and then I'll be back in 10 minutes. And he didn't really say much of what it was for. And now that it is an EMF frequency, but it's a beneficial EMF frequency
Yes.
that is for healing. And what did you say about the mitochondria?
Well,
Or did I
it
make it?
literally it gives the mitochondria it's a direct source of energy that it can use because it's a frequency, it's just a light band, and that the mitochondria takes that light frequency, that light energy, and utilizes it to catalyze enzymatic reactions and just speed up the energy generation process. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I'll also add something in too. I'm not going to go full in depth because it's a whole other conversation. But if people do red light therapy, drink some sort of chlorophyll rich drink beforehand, because the chlorophyll will actually can absorb, just like out in nature, it's absorbing frequency and energy from the sun. It will absorb a portion of that red light, and also it basically acts as like a magnet for that light in the cells. And we know, this is even published research, that chlorophyll can interact with chlorophyll circulating in the blood can, in human blood, can interact with light that goes through the skin. So it's literally like, if let's say you're out in the sun, or if you're in the red light therapy, if you have chlorophyll circulating through your blood, that chlorophyll will interact with that light source and pull it in even more to give you even more energy.
Even if you just go into a far infrared little sauna thing?
Yeah. Yeah,
Fabulous.
I do it every time before I go. I have a very specific drink that I do, and just loaded with greens and, chlorophyll, chlorella, spirulina, things like that.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
by the way, everybody, you can get chlorophyll, you could get drops, you could get tablets just at any health food store.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's fantastic.
yeah. So, okay, going to the other side of the equation, the harmful EMFs. So there's a big misconception in this whole industry and space of, okay, we know that ionizing radiation, so like gamma waves or X-rays, are damaging and carcinogenic. We know that. That's accepted mainstream. That's widely known. Where mainstream will differ from the real scientists who are doing the real work with EMFs and 5G is, the mainstream will say that non-ionizing radiation is not harmful to us. Okay. Now, there are studies showing that, but they're only looking at certain parameters. And so in their parameters, yes, that is true. But if you look at other parameters, that is not true. And that's where all these scientists are taking this work much deeper, because we do know that non-ionizing radiation still is harmful. It's harmful to the DNA. It's harmful to the cells. It damages DNA. And that then leads to a whole cascading of events, which, on the worst end of it, can lead to cancer. But in general, cell phones, computers, tablets, routers, smart meters, things like that, they're all emitting these EMFs. And this is the radio frequency band of EMFs, or RF waves. And those are also known to be harmful to us. A couple scientists, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but people that can look into, and I'll put these links down in the description, is Dr. Martin Pall, Pall. He wrote a book just recently, and it's a free PDF book where he talks about 5G and EMFs. He's one of the world's leading experts on this stuff. And he wrote he wrote a very detailed book on all of the physiological effects that can happen from EMFs, specifically 5G. It's a wonderful resource for people. And then Dr. Martin Blank, who he talked about how EMFs damage DNA. And we'll get into that in a little bit, because I know that's a question later on. Yeah.
By the way, I'm not, the reason I keep looking down is because I'm taking notes.
Awesome.
Everything you're saying. It's so fantastic. So, all right. So you're saying that, for example, this guy, Martin Pall, leading experts, and he will, you read his work and he's going to, it's a little bit scary about the damage that these things do, like when you're holding your cell phone to your ear, and when some kids sleep with their cell phones underneath their pillows, maybe adults do too, or on their nightstand, and then on the other side is their computer and they sleep with it all night, or people are in front of a computer for 8-10 hours a day. Our kids are now in front of computers 8-10 hours a day. So can you just give us a little bit of an idea of what Martin Pall and other researchers have found out in their research? You say damaged DNA. Well, some people might not know what that means. Can you interpret it in terms of what damage might be the rays are doing to the brain or the kid's development?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll circle back to that question, and then I'll talk about some things leading up to that. So things that people can do just free, and first and foremost, is definitely do not sleep with your cell phone under your pillow, and don't sleep with your cell phone on if you can absolutely avoid it. Okay. Take the cell phone and any sort of devices, computers, routers, get them out of the bedroom. You do not want to be sleeping with those things, and especially on. Like if you have your router in the bedroom and you unplug it, that's great. The other thing going back to that is at night, unplug your router. It's simple, it's free, and it will absolutely help you. And the reason it helps is because, and a person may or may not feel this, but regardless if they feel it or not, it will have an effect on their bodies, again, whether they feel it or not. And the reason is that these EMFs will mess with brain waves, and during sleep, we want to get down into the delta brainwave to where we can get into that deep REM sleep. And with an EMF source, either right next to us with a phone, or if you have a router on in the home, that will interact with your brain, and it will interact then with the depth to which you can get into your sleep. So those are free things people can do. Yeah,
Can
you
I
have a
interrupt
question, go ahead.
a second? You said even if it's off, and I was going to go, what? So, because that's what I've been doing. I've been turning all my electronics off, but I leave them in, but they're still in the room where I sleep. That isn't good enough?
No, that is, what I'm saying is, let's say you have your router in your bedroom, and that's where it is, okay? If you unplug it, that's great. If you have your phone, you definitely want to turn it off, and that is great by itself, but also keep it away from your body, or keep it away from your bed or your head as far as you can. And the reason is because, even if our phone is off, we know that these companies can still track the phones in some way, and I don't know the exact mechanisms through which they can track it, but we know that exists. They can track phones whether they're on or off. And so there is some sort of signal somewhere, whether that's printed in the user manual or not, doesn't really matter. It is there. So that's just something to be aware of. I know people will use their phones as alarms. And if that's your only source and you have to use an alarm, that's fine. Put it on airplane mode, and then put it outside the bedroom if you can. And at least 6 feet away from where your head is outside of the bedroom. So yeah, those are free things a person can do. And then going back to your original question with it. So, okay, Dr. Martin Paul, he's at Washington State, and he's still living, and he's published a lot of different papers on EMFs, and I'll again put this in the link, or put this link in the description below. But he's shown how what happens is this radio frequency radiation, what it does is it causes these the outer cell membranes in the cells to release calcium ions, which are called voltage gated calcium ion channels. Okay. So what happens is these ion channels open up, and then calcium goes into the cells, and that changes the pH of the cells to a much more acidic environment. And then that calcium will then trigger nitric oxide to be produced. And then the nitric oxide interacts with another chemical or compound to then create something called peroxynitrite. And that peroxynitrite is what is a potent free radical that is known to cause a lot of damage and havoc to DNA. It will literally break the DNA strand. And, that's part of the reason why some people, when they're using their phones, will feel headaches. They'll have fatigue, brain fog, things like that. It's because our whole brain chemistry is getting messed up with this radio frequency radiation. So he established this pathway, and this is, again, non-ionizing radiation that is causing damage. And so that completely destroys the whole narrative that non-ionizing radiation isn't harmful. It is. We know it. The mainstream industry in terms of telecommunications will not talk about that, though, because it puts them out of business overnight, or it puts them in a position where they then have to implement changes, which then are costly for them. The whole sort, it's like, it's the whole big tobacco thing, back decades ago, where we were, I wasn't living, but people were told that, smoking it's okay, it's not bad, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing as what we're going to find with EMFs.
And I think even
we already know it. It's just the public awareness will have to get to that point. and it is growing rapidly for sure. Um,
And I think that the public awareness is growing rapidly, but
yeah,
I also think that the misinformation from the industry is growing more rapidly than the public awareness. I was, there was an article in Scientific American, and it was about how EMFs are not safe. And it was about a year ago in July. And I quoted all the time, and then people went to find it, and it was nowhere to be found. But the next month there was an article about how safe EMFs were.
wow.
Fortunately, I took a screenshot of it so that I could use it in a slideshow. And then people were saying to me, I can't find that article you quoted from. So,
Not
and
surprising.
yeah, it's a little insidious, but so that's the bad news. And I know also from the research that I've read, and there were like 2,000 peer-reviewed articles that were written about this, about how EMFs, the bad kind, cause not only cancers and not only brain increase in brain tumors, but reproductive disorders and bone problems, joint problems, um, depression, uh, ADD that was affecting kids' behavior. And I mean, it's just on and on and on. So much peer reviewed that there were thousands of scientists who signed on to a declaration that we cannot proliferate this 5G in our countries because of what it's doing. But the industry was just so large that the only thing that we can do now, because there's no stopping it, you look outside and there are these little 5G antennas. I could see two just from my bedroom window, within yards of my house, let alone the big gigantic 5G towers that I drive past the grammar school that my kids went to, and there's one right across the street. And it's in their high school too.
Yeah.
In Evanston, if people drive down Dodge, they see a gigantic tower, and then the school is a block later. So that's the bad news. And the good news is that there are companies like yours that have developed technologies so that we can be protected. So why don't we now share the good news?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely several companies out there who are in the EMF mitigation space. We differ in some ways, and so many companies will create products that are blocking EMFs. Okay, and a way that because unfortunately there are some companies who will claim to be blocking EMFs, but that's actually not true. When you're blocking EMFs, what will happen then is you're literally going to be blocking the signal from which, let's say, the cell phone can interact with that cell tower. So if you have something on there that says it's blocking the EMFs and you can still use the phone, it's not actually doing that. Now, there is one particular company that I really respect and that's awesome, and they have cases, and you can use that case, but once you open it up to actually use the phone itself, it's not going to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. It will block the EMFs, like if it's in your pocket or in your shirt pocket or whatever, and that's good. But once you have to start using it, it's not going to be effective, or it's going to dramatically cut the signal, and so it's going to be hard to use.
And not to interrupt you, which I am doing again, but but that's why I always said to my daughter, don't put your cell phone in your bra, because
Yes.
it's like an antenna drawing in the EMFs right into your breast. That's the last thing you want to do. And
Yes.
people who put their phones in their pockets right next to their reproductive organs, it's just, you just want to cry. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, and it's so true. And it's one of those simple, free things that people can do. And I get it, like, you got to carry your phone somewhere. So you might have to get creative with it, or you can use technology that helps, but definitely take some sort of action to do it. Because if you're not using anything to protect yourself, you said it perfectly. You are literally using the phone as an antenna to draw radiation to your body. And it is right on your skin, right next to your heart. which is saturated with neurons. And so neurons communicate with electricity. So, you know, you're really screwing with the heart and the brain if you have that phone up next to your head. So, yeah, so back to our technology, what we're doing is we don't claim, and we actively talk about how we are not blocking EMFs. Okay, what we are doing is our technology, they're little discs that you put on the back of your phone or your computer, so forth. And yeah, like that. And within that, you can see how it's almost looks like a hologram. It's because it is a hologram. And what we have done is we're using a very advanced technology called longitudinal scalar waves. This was actually something that Nikola Tesla had brought out into the world and discovered. And we are taking known beneficial frequencies, beneficial meaning they're frequencies that are beneficial for human physiology. And we take these frequencies and we program them into the hologram. And then when, let's say, the phone, when it's turned on, even if you're not taking a call, there's micro amounts of heat that's coming off of that little radiation. And that's enough to actually activate this hologram to then signal to that to then release the beneficial frequencies that are programmed within this hologram. So, you know, I understand that to some that might sound like sci-fi and like, you know, we're just completely making this up. We'll talk a little bit more about the science next, but it works, it's real. These longitudinal scalar waves are definitely outside of conventional physics, but they are real nonetheless. And we have top level experts who are validating this stuff time and time again. You know, I know you know this, Deborah, like we're entering into times, and I know all your listeners know this too, we're entering into times where everything that we've thought to be true and known to be true is being challenged. And, you know, the wheat from the chaff is going to be separated and is being separated more and more and more. So, you know, what we view in physics, yes, there's wonderful things in conventional physics, but the quantum world is real. And there's a lot of stuff that we're going to find very soon that's being validated. But we're using these longitudinal scalar waves in this way to then interact with the DNA of the cells. So going back earlier, you asked about Dr. Martin Blank. He was a pioneer in this industry as well when he lived, and he wrote a paper showing how DNA acts as a fractal antenna. So it is absorbing the full range of radiation, both beneficial and harmful. And so then what that does is it will take the radiation, whatever it's picking up, and that DNA then will signal to the cells, hey, we're going to create this sort of cascade of physiological effects, depending on whether it's beneficial radiation like red light or whether it's harmful like, you know, cell phone radio frequency radiation. And so what we're doing is we're actually kind of biohacking that process of the DNA picking up on beneficial or harmful frequencies. And we are taking those programmed beneficial frequencies within that disc, and then they're being released all around the body. And the DNA then picks up on that and then starts to elicit beneficial frequencies. And so in layman's terms, what we're doing is we're signaling to the body to not react in a harmful or stressful way while in the presence of EMFs. Okay. That's what we're doing.
Well, that is phenomenal. So what you're saying is that even if my phone is next to my head and I forget to turn it off at night, you might as well still turn it off.
Yeah.
But because of this disc, and by the way, I do have a cover because I know that you say that you should not, because you don't want to get this scratched.
Right. Yeah,
So
you want to put it directly on the phone.
It has like my pretty mirror on it and stuff, but
Nice.
but I took it out of the case, just so that people could see it. But so if it has that disc, if I should forget to turn it off, no worries, mate, because for a radius of 6 feet,
Yeah.
I am protected.
Yes. And that's what we've tested.
And I
And
also have one on the bottom of my computer, which obviously I can't show you because I'm talking to you on my computer. So what you're saying is that like these kids who spend 6 hours in front of the computer, 8 hours because they do their whole schooling on the computer, beside that you want them to put one of your stickers, they're like rectangular for
yeah,
the computer, and then they will be protected from the damaging emissions from the computer. Or is it from the computer, or is it from that it's drawing it in from the towers?
well, it's both, and it kind of depends what kind of what their situation is. So if they're using a Wi-Fi router, well, the router is going to be doing it for sure, but then it's also communicating, wirelessly with the computer. And so that computer then will also be emitting the EMFs. Now, if they're using a router that is completely like fiber optics, where it's not grounded, but basically wired completely, and then you have it wired to the computer, like Ethernet, then a person is uh, pretty much fine. You'll get some EMFs just coming off of the screen, but I mean, it's not anything near where what the wireless is going to be doing. Going but further adding on to what the kid situation is, we know, and they've tested this numerous times, showing that kids' brains absorb way more radiation than adults do. And the reason is because their skulls are not as thick, and the myelin sheath around their neurons are not as developed. And so they don't have that level of protection that adults do. I mean, we still feel it, adults, many people do. And we are impacted whether we feel it or not as adults. But kids are way more sensitive to this. Some will feel it, some won't, but they're because their skulls are not as developed, they are absorbing more radiation. So, I know with all the schooling being online and so forth, it's a major concern. And I'm sure if you could somehow do some sort of survey that was done in a, legitimate scientific way, I'm sure you'd be finding that right now, the kids in general are more angry, irritable, more prone to like ADD, ADHD type symptoms, things like that, because of this radiation.
So the best holiday gift that you can get your children, which I already got for my children, or your grandchildren, is one of these for the back of their phone, because all of the kids have cell phones,
Yeah.
and one for the bottom of the computer. I mean, for less than $100, you
Yeah.
could protect your kids from, unimaginable damage to their bodies and their brains. And
Yeah.
I have, I want to ask you another
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Another thing that I have, because I'm a little bit, I don't want to say fanatic. I'm just well read on the subject. I also have a blue blocker screen on my computer, and I also wear blue blocker glasses on top of my blue blocker screen. I'm
Yeah.
not wearing them right now because, of course, I'd want to look pretty without them, but because I've read so much about how the blue light coming out of the computer screen, if you don't have a blue blocker screen or protector, it ages your skin. It's as much radiation as coming out from the noonday sun, only I'm in front of it for 8-10 hours a day,
Yeah.
and that it destroys the macula, and especially again in children because of their developing eyes. Do you still recommend that it's good to go ahead and get a blue blocker
Yeah.
protector? Okay.
Definitely. And then I also use blue light blocking glasses as well, and for the same reason, not wearing them because of the interview. But yes,
You
I
want
do
to look
wear them.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to look
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
All
Exactly.
right. So now I want to, okay, so this is, I think that we have made our case for getting protection, and I love your technology. It's so absolutely brilliant. And I'll tell you something else. There are companies who have like plugins and it protects your whole house. And I believe that it
Yeah,
does. I mean,
I
I
do
have
too.
friends who manufactured those as well, and I do
Yeah.
recommend them. why not protect
Yep.
your whole house? Although with yours, you can put one of the stickers on your router. You could put one of your stickers on the microwave. You could put one of your stickers on, the different electronic appliances. But for my less than $100, I would also put one on my phone, not just because I also use it when I'm out and about, but I would say, let's get all the protection we can get,
Yeah,
especially for our children. Do you agree?
definitely. Definitely. Everyone's in a different financial situation, and that's understandable. But if you can, definitely, because it's impacting you whether you feel it or not. And that's the most important thing, like, people, many people are electrosensitive and will feel the effects of EMFs, and they know it. They know when they're around EMFs, it's unmistakable. The majority of people will not feel it, but it is still impacting in a harmful way the DNA of your cells. And then, depending on a person's lifestyle, genetics, their mindset, all that stuff, how is it then going to affect them both short term and long term? It's different for every person, but again, regardless, it is impacting every person in a harmful way, whether they feel it or not.
And speaking of a way that I could tell that this works, because I am sensitive. I mean, I can't have a phone. Well, now I can because I have my sticker, but my disc. But if I hold a cell phone to my ear without the disc for more than just a minute or two, I could feel the
Yeah.
radiation into my brain. So I am a little bit sensitive to it, but I know people who can't even be in houses when the router is on. They're like the canary in the coal mine. They just know if there is electromagnetic, if it's amped up in a certain house,
Yeah.
or cars too. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. You know what I love about this? It's like you have this on your phone and you're protected in your car
Yeah.
because your car is filled with computers.
Yeah.
The car, I mean, especially electric cars, I hate to say,
I know.
especially electric cars.
Yeah.
And ones like Tesla that have like 12 computers in it.
Yeah.
You are surrounded by 12 computers in your freaking car.
Yeah.
But if you have this, if you have this, you are protected in your car
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's a radius of 6 feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I was going to tell you is that I had a direct experience of that your technology works. And I'll tell you, and I don't know if we are going to talk about this today,
Go
but
ahead.
you also have these body relief patches. Now it sounds like a commercial. And we also have body relief patches. But I just have to tell you, because you were saying about how some people can feel it and some people don't.
Yeah.
So I can't walk into a house and know if their router is on or off.
Yeah.
But I know, but you told me about these. I thought, I trust you, I'll get them.
Yeah.
And I've tried a lot of different body patches from different companies. But what happened, I got to tell you a great story. Okay. So my cousin was having such bad back pain. I just moved back here from California. So I'm staying with my cousin, and she was in a lot of pain in her back. I said, I got these patches from Lance. Who's Lance? Well, I'm just going to go get these patches. And we put a patch, and I know sometimes you say it takes two, but we put one patch on the place where, and she couldn't even move. She was in pain. We put the patch on, and I see her walking. I said, I guess it worked. She says, yeah, I feel a little better. She went upstairs. She was in so much pain. She was trying to sleep on the couch. She couldn't fall asleep. She went to sleep like
That's
that.
awesome.
She woke up the next morning. She said, this is amazing. I have no pain. And she was like blown away. So I was like hoping I would get some pain so that I could try it myself. So anyway, I was exercising and I pulled a muscle. That moment that you feel that,
Yeah.
you pulled a muscle and it's like a little ping. I'm like, I manifested that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it was painful, it was painful. And I thought, okay, I'm going to let it'll go away by itself because I just rubbed it a little but it didn't go away. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go get that those pain patches. So I'll even show you. So I put the pain patch on
That's
right there.
awesome.
And it was like a miracle. I mean, this is like a pulled muscle. And I put the pain patch on, and I mean, that was it, full range of motion back, no pain. So how could you put this in a pain patch? I don't even get it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, both of those testimonials are awesome. And thanks for sharing that. That's incredible. And so we recently upgraded these. They were little discs, but they were very hard to stay on the body. And it was just, they were effective, but it was very difficult for them to stay on the body. So we upgraded them to a patch. And it's the same concept of what we're doing is we're taking other beneficial frequencies that are more for helping to promote a healthy inflammatory response. And what we're doing then is programming them into the hologram and putting that hologram into the patch. And then again, the micro amounts of heat coming off the body is enough to activate that hologram to then where those beneficial frequencies flood the area around the body right there and help to promote that healthy inflammatory response. And, you know, I'm delighted to hear your testimonial, and I'll say I'm surprised, but I'm also not surprised because, and this is genuine. This is no sales gimmick, no fluff. We are getting phenomenal feedback from people now at increasing rates because we just came out with these, of these pain patches, like stories that are almost unbelievable to hear. And yeah, I know, okay, these people are not making this up. They would not be writing in, wasting their time to make this up. And I mean, people like literally one lady, I'll just share one set of testimonials. She had she had some back surgeries, I think 2 back surgeries in her life, and she's been in pain for like 15 years. And she's tried a lot of different things. She recently got off of pharmaceutical medications because that just really wasn't helping. She switched to CBD, THC, and Aleve. And she said that definitely improved things for her. And then she said she put one patch on one side of her back and then one on another side of her back. And she said within, I think it was an hour or two, she said she had not felt that way in like 15 years. And then she had her husband had a neck injury also from many years ago and had not been normal for I think 10 years or something. And she put one on his neck, and she said it was like within an hour he had full range of motion and said that he had not felt that way since prior to his injury. And again, I'm simply reporting the message. I'm not exaggerating any of that. That is 100% fact from what this person wrote in. So it's seriously exciting to hear that from you, Debra, that you and your cousin both got benefit, because that's what, at the end of the day, why I created this company is to help people. Like, yes, we know we're making money, we need to pay our bills, all that stuff, but business at the end of the day should be about serving people and helping people. And that's what we're wanting to do, and help people in very significant and like profound ways, not just a little bit, but a lot. We want to help people a lot.
And that's one of the things, the first time I talked about you, I went and I said, this guy's the real deal.
Thank you. Thank you,
I really, really believe that in the depths of my heart. And
Debra.
I'll tell you, the one other thing that I want to share before we sign off. So my friend Peggy is the person who told me about this. And again, I trust her and she does her homework. But what really sold me was she gave me the link to your website, and I saw this movie that you have on there, this video of a scientist taking some blood and putting it on one of those slides and putting it under the microscope and projecting the blood cells. And the blood cells were all separate and floating around and having a good time. And then she took a cell phone and put it next to the blood. and it started clumping in
Yeah.
like clumps, these like clumps. First it was 2, and then 3, and then they were stacking on top of each other, and they explained, why that is so harmful and what was going on. And then she goes and she takes one of your patches, puts it on top of the cell phone, and the blood starts unclumping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw it with my own eyes. And that was what I said, okay, this is just phenomenal. What
Yeah.
does that mean when the blood clumps and unclumps? I
Yeah.
remember hearing it, but it didn't kind of stick in my
Right.
brain.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's happening is, okay, so going back to Dr. Martin Pall, how he talked about how the radio frequency radiation will basically change the chemistry of the cell, the electrochemistry of the cell. So what's happening is the cell, the outer cell membrane of, like, say, the white blood cell or the red blood cell, its surface potential will lose its negative electrical charge. The negative electrical charge acts as like a buffer for other cells, so they all keep their boundaries. They're happy, they're healthy, they're safe, they're able to move throughout the vein or the artery, so forth, and do what they need to do, continue to flow and be healthy. When the radio frequency radiation comes in, it basically zaps that electrical charge, pulls it off, and it starts to have this positive charge, which is actually not positive. It's not beneficial, to then where they start roping. It's called roping together or grouping together, and they start clumping. They start losing their ability to transport oxygen. So that's why some people, when they're using their cell phone or they're electrosensitive, they'll have headaches or migraines, things like that, because the red blood cells aren't flowing. They can't get oxygen. And so you're going to be impacted with the brain, um, fatigue, brain fog, all those sorts of things are correlated to less oxygen, but also many other things, because oxygen is life. We need it for everything and everything that happens in the body. So that's what's happening. And then, like we talked about earlier, our technology, these frequencies are known beneficial frequencies for human physiology. And so, like that video shows, these programmed frequencies are literally benefiting us physiologically. We aren't making this up. That video shows it and proves it right there. It's impacting us in a physiological way. This is frequency based. I'm not going to say medicine, because I can't technically say that, but it's frequency based applications that are beneficial for us in healthy ways. And that's what's happening. So the cells, when they start declumping again with our discs, they're regaining their negative electrical charge, so then they can return to homeostasis.
Thank you for that
Yeah.
explanation. And with that, I think that people want to know how they can find out more and
Yeah.
get some of these. And how are you going to put the URL underneath this video?
Yes, I will put your link, Debra. So the first link in the description is going to be Debra's link. So please,
I
everyone,
have my own link.
yeah, click on Debra's link, because then that will make sure that she gets credit for any sales that come in, and we want to make sure that she gets the credit for them. So,
Oh, that is so
please,
sweet.
yeah,
Thank
please click on her link. It'll be the first one in there, and that will take you to our website, and we'll have all the products there. You can see that video that we just talked about on the first page there, down towards the bottom. That's all there. Yeah, we've got all the science listed out. We've got a lot of different products. We've got different bundles. So, you can buy based on what your household needs are. If there's a bundle that we don't have already put together, you can write us and we can create a specific bundle for you.
Well, now that I get credit, which I love credit, what I would like to know is if they click on my link, they could still go on your site and see that cool video. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll take them directly there.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
what I love about your site is that it's not like just a sales site. There's so much real solid information, and you can
Thank
educate
you.
yourself so well by going on that site. So I just want to make sure that it leads there. Well, Lance, you are the man. Let me just tell you, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Debra.
spending this time with me. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing for people and the planet. I know that you really care, and that's one of the things that I like about you, besides that you're a Hawkeye fan. Those of you who are a Cyclones fan, don't say, well, then I'm not going to.
That's funny.
I'm not going to get anything from Lance. But really, truly thank you. And I thank my friend Peggy for introducing me to you and your technology, because you know what I got everybody for their holiday
Yeah.
presents.
Thank you,
And
Debra.
they're all calling me. Now I want to put on my phone. Do I put it like 1 inch above? And what's the, because they want to make sure that they do it right, because and it's so easy. It's just 1 inch above the back center. So it's
Yeah.
not that hard, but
Yeah.
it is. And also it's kind of pretty.
Yeah, it is. I really like it. It reflects. It's yeah.
And one other thing I want to say about about the patches, and I'm really going to let everybody go, is that they stay on for 48 hours, even after you shower. I mean,
Yeah.
I shower, I wash my hair, and and it's right here, and it's still on, and it's almost 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people, we actually had one person write in say that he left it on for 10 days and he still felt benefits. So we tell people 20 or 48 to 72 hours is typical in terms of, feeling the effects. But if you feel it for 6 days, keep it on for 6 days. We're everyone's different. So that's
I'm
just what we've typically found is 2 to 3 days.
I'm so glad you told me that, because I'm thinking, okay, 48 hours, I'm going to have to change it again, but I'm still feeling complete range
That's
of motion
awesome.
and no pain. So I'll just see if the pain comes back. That would be a clue that it's
Yeah.
time to change, or maybe it'll never come back.
Yeah.
So again, happy holidays, and to
You too, Debra.
you and your family.
Thank
And thank you so much for all the good you're doing in the world.
Yes. Thank you too, Debra. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye for now.